Greetings, humans. Major Thesteram back for a special request from the Arbiter himself. I've been requested to recount the historical records of the former capital of the Covenant. In light of some new revelations from the past few months, he felt it necessary to update our database on the mobile capital. It was once the symbol of the Covenant's religious piety, its immense power, and its 3 millennia reign. Now, nothing but a wretched husk of its former self. This was once the golden city of the Covenant. This was High Charity. Long before the formation of the Covenant, the San Shum civil war between the Reformists and the Stoics ended with the foreigner dreadnought launching from their homeworld, Janjarquom. The mighty vessel ripped a huge chunk from the crust of the planet along with it as it escaped into the void. This chunk would later form the foundation of the Holy City. The construction of High Charity began shortly after the ratification of the Writ of Union in 850 BCE, during the Age of Reconciliation. Led by the Minister of the Hearth, Lakamawai, and the first assembled choir of builders, the creators of the city station were collectively known as the Supernal Chorus. The station became the capital of the newborn covenant, a physical representation of the alliance between the two species, and a surrogate homeworld for the San Shum. The foreigner dreadnought was then stripped of all known weapons and installed inside the center of High Charity, its powerful engines providing power to the entire city. The city's construction lasted for over 2 centuries. The dome was not yet fully erected by the time of the taming of the Legolo in 784 BCE. While the dome was under construction, both by organic and robotic labor, the city was gradually settled, its atmosphere held by force fields. Over the millennia, High Charity gorged upon the wealth of hundreds of worlds, won by the Empire's conquest and indomitable expansion. The Holy City was, of course, not just the center of government, but also of religion in the hegemony, with the Hierarchs and the High Council directing both religious and secular activities within the Covenant's vast territories. Billions were born, lived, and died within this once glorious city. Beneath the city proper lay the vast assembly forges, where countless refineries created vehicles and devices of luxury for the capital's citizens, and vast amounts of weapons and vessels of war for the Prophet's armies. Beneath the great dome of the city branched the spires of gifting, hundreds of docking ports and spires that once received merchant vessels, military fleets, and emissaries from 1,000 Covenant worlds. The capital was once guarded by its own defense fleet, and what a glorious armada it was, consisting of hundreds of battleships, carriers, and cruisers. Some of the biggest fleets in the entirety of the Covenant defended the city, such as the Second Fleet of Homogeneous Clarity. At the height of the Covenant's power, no would-be invader would have dared even the thought of assaulting the Holy City. Violence, however, was no stranger to the city. At one point, due to many years of peace and prosperity for the Covenant, the Ungwe population grew so rapidly it forced many of the Kigyar to relocate their nests. The relocation caused stress from many female Kigyar that were going through their incubation cycles. This caused their infant mortality rate to rise and their fertility to fall. In response, furious and radical Kigyar shipmasters poisoned the Ungwe's infusion supply. This equally led to the sterilization and infant mortality rate of many Ungwe. After the Ministry of Concert failed to act accordingly, the Ungwe rage boiled into revolt with violence upon the Holy City. Thus began the 39th Age of Conflict. This vicious rebellion would eventually be put to an end when an arbiter partially glassed the Ungwe homeworld, Balaho. Decades later, when our war against the humans began, High Charity became the primary headquarters of the Covenant military, where the Hierarchs could enact their will upon our commanders to ensure they would obey without question. Upon the discovery of Alpha Halo by the then Supreme Commander Thel Vadimi and the fleet of Particular Justice, High Charity made preparations to slip space jump to the Holy Ring, where the Hierarchs would activate it and send the Covenant on the Great Journey. However, when the city and its fleet arrived at Threshold, they found both the Holy Ring and the fleet of Particular Justice in ruins. The entire city mourned the loss of the Holy Ring, and wrongly raged against our bravest commander and soldiers for its destruction. But soon after this, we would come to discover that the very city that millions once called home, that millions put their faith into, was founded upon a lie. All the blood spilled, all of our brothers lost, and the innocents we wrongfully sent screaming into the void, all for nothing. This lie would become apparent months later when High Charity arrived at Delta Halo upon word that the Prophet of Regret had discovered it and subsequently was murdered by the demon. This was when that treacherous worm, the High Prophet of Truth, enacted his scheme to dispose the Sangheili from power within the Covenant. Civil war raged inside the capital and among the surrounding fleets as Truth's savage puppets, the Jiralhane and Prelates, enacted their long-planned treachery. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, the Parasite, the Flood, took advantage of the chaos and boarded the city station, rapidly infesting it and leading Truth to abandon its citizens to a fate far worse than death. Before long, the once proud holy city became a wretched hive for the Flood. It was thanks to Nakai Vodar for taking charge of the hastily assembled fleet of retribution and forming a quarantine blockade. No tainted ship escaped their fire, save for one battlecruiser that fled towards the portal to the Ark, no doubt in an attempt to ensure that none could use it. With the dreadnought absent, the holy city's power became much more finite. Perhaps the remaining shipmasters assumed the Flood would merely attempt to take any more spacecraft from the dockyards, or otherwise just continue to fester within the city until they could be destroyed. Surely, the abomination had no way of utilizing the Cephom Invictus, the city's mighty slipspace drives. But oh, how we were wrong. The Parasite's very mind was within the city. Only by the grace of Urs and the bravery of the demon's own oracle were we warned that the city was on the move. Though we were told the destination of High Charity was Earth, a slipspace portal tore into being during the final battle of the Ark, disgorging thousands of sparsal pods, one of which pierced right through our flagship, the Shadow of Intent. The ruined High Charity crashed upon the installation, disgorging even more of its filth in the impact. What a sight it must have been. I remember being present on the Kaiden's ship when we received footage from the Swords of Sanghelios months after the battle. What was once a holy city lay twisted and blackened, with flame and the filth that festered inside leaking out from breaches in its hull. Truth was cut down, and his attempt to activate the rings thwarted. The demon returned to the flood-infested High Charity in search of the oracle that had warned us all. The demon then overloaded one of High Charity's backup reactors and fought its way through the hive to meet up with our Arbiter and board a salvage dropship to escape the flames. However, if the demon had thought this would destroy the holy city, it was sorely mistaken. The chain reaction did not completely destroy High Charity, with the outer structure still standing when the replacement ring was fired. A few years later, the UNSC and Swords of Sanghelios learned from our joint efforts in Operation Farstorm that the Sentinels of the Ark had built a great quarantine zone around the ruins of the destroyed city, supposedly to seal off any flood spores that had survived the firing of the unfinished ring 7 years ago. Of the 3 years that the UNSC's scientists spent uncovering the many secrets of the Ark, they saw nothing from the quarantine zone, as if perhaps the Parasite really was gone. But now we have unsettling reports of Atriox's banished having pierced the shield surrounding the ruins, and that they have reawakened the horror that once dwelt within the station. Gods help us if the Flood truly did survive, and now infests the Ark with High Charity at its infected heart. But with that, I must end my report, as I am needed elsewhere. I must prepare Vodar's defenses and soldiers from any would-be Covenant warlord, or from the rising created threat, or, Urs forbid, the Parasite. May the gods watch over us all in the times to come, humans. This is Thesderom, signing out.
So